by Kevin Bacon's side, but recently something has shifted beneath the surface. During their latest film project, people working on set sensed a strange tension between them. Kyra was often seen having long, serious conversations with their children, and then one phone call changed everything. According to people close to the family, Kevin's newest project crossed a boundary that Kyra can't overlook. Now she is preparing to walk away from something she never imagined letting go of, and the reason behind it is far more shocking than anyone expected. Kyra Sedgwick was born on August 19, 1965, in New York City. At first, it looked like her life was built on comfort and stability. Her mother came from a wealthy German Jewish family, and her father belonged to an old American line that could trace its history back to the Revolutionary War. Their family tree included Judge Theodore Sedgwick and many people connected to politics and influence. But even with all that privilege around her, things inside her home didn't feel steady. Her mother believed in talking things out, in therapy, in emotion. Her father lived his life fast, buried in a business world where control mattered more than feelings. When Kyra was only 4, the cracks in their marriage grew too wide to ignore. Financial trouble hit after her father made risky business decisions, and the tension at home became impossible to hide. Kyra found herself split between two very different worlds, and those early years taught her that money and comfort can't shield anyone from emotional storms. The break finally came when her parents separated. She was just 4 years old when the long custody battle began. She moved back and forth between her mother's small apartment, where therapy sessions and emotional talks were normal, and her father's elegant place on the Upper East Side. When she turned 6, the divorce was finalized, but nothing felt settled. Kyra felt lost, pulled between two homes, and expected to adjust without showing pain. To cope, she wrote stories, imagined characters, and created little worlds where things made sense. Those early creative habits became emotional survival skills, and later, the very foundation of her acting. Her family history was never quiet or simple. Her half-brother, Mike Stern, was a gifted jazz guitarist 13 years older than she was. Critics in the 1990s called him one of the greats. But behind his brilliance, he struggled with heroin addiction. In 1986, he overdosed and almost died, surviving only because doctors performed an emergency liver transplant. For Kyra, visiting him meant stepping into a world filled with extraordinary music but also fear and heartbreak. Watching someone she loved fight a battle she couldn't help him win shaped her understanding of addiction and suffering. It gave her emotional depth long before Hollywood ever noticed her. Her identity shaped her too. Kyra grew up with strong Jewish influences from her mother. She attended Passover dinners, listened to stories about traditions, and leaned on therapy to help her untangle the confusion from her parents' divorce. When her mother remarried a deeply religious Jewish art dealer, Kyra felt even more connected to her heritage. She learned about the rhythms of emotion, about how rituals can calm a storm inside the heart. These lessons stayed with her for life and became part of how she approached relationships, motherhood, and the characters she portrayed. There were other family stories she carried like quiet warnings. One of them was the life of Edie Sedgwick, a distant relative who became a famous figure in Andy Warhol's circle. Edie's life burned bright but ended tragically at 28 after years of anorexia, bulimia, mental illness, and drug abuse. Kyra grew up hearing those stories, and they taught her early that fame carries shadows. It made her understand that the world she wanted to enter, Hollywood, could swallow people whole if they weren't careful. That knowledge helped keep her grounded as she chased her acting dream. School brought challenges of its own. Kyra attended Friends Seminary in Manhattan, an elite school where people whispered about family names and background. When she was about 12, she realized acting made her feel understood. But as soon as her classmates realized she came from a powerful family, the bullying started. They teased her about her background and made her feel out of place. Instead of shrinking, she threw herself into school theater. She poured every feeling into her performances. Her teachers saw her passion and encouraged her to keep going. In 1983, she started college at Sarah Lawrence, a school full of creativity. But she stayed for only 1 year. Her father was shocked when she dropped out to pursue acting full-time. He wanted her to follow a stable path, but Kyra felt called towards something else, something unpredictable but real. She transferred to USC's theater department in 1984, where she found demanding teachers, long nights of rehearsals, and fierce competition. The training sharpened her skills and prepared her for the career she dreamed of. But her career had actually started even earlier. At 16, she landed her first paying job on the soap opera Another World, appearing in 29 episodes and earning $500 each. Some critics dismissed it as simple soap opera acting, but for Kyra, it was proof that she belonged in the industry. While at USC, she interned at the Public Theater in New York. In 1985, she narrowly avoided serious injury when a heavy set-piece malfunctioned and crashed near her. Shaken but unharmed, she walked away with a deeper respect for the risks of live theater. By 1987, she completed her degree. Before graduating, she directed a short film about her parents' divorce. It won a campus award and revealed her talent behind the camera. She auditioned constantly, sometimes 10 times a week, while finishing school. Her determination planted the early seeds for the directing career she would eventually build. In the same year, she appeared in an off-Broadway play called Dakota's Belly. She played a Native American activist, and the production stirred controversy. Native American groups protested her casting, calling the play insensitive. Protesters stood outside the theater every night. Still, critics praised her raw performance, and she earned a Drama Desk nomination. It became her first major moment of recognition and taught her that meaningful roles often come with risk and debate. In 1988, she starred in Lemon Sky opposite Kevin Bacon. Their chemistry began on set and grew quickly into something more. Kevin kept inviting the cast to dinner just to get close to her. When that didn't work, he invited her to his hotel room for a massage, which became their first private moment together. During filming, Kyra was forced to improvise an emotional scene in one long take. Her performance impressed everyone and opened many doors for her. It also marked the beginning of the relationship that would lead to marriage later that year. Her career continued to grow. In 1989, she played a journalist in The Man Who Lived at the Ritz, a World War II drama filmed with real explosions and collapsing sets. During one scene, falling debris hit her, causing minor injuries. It reminded her again that acting often demands physical courage as well as emotional strength. She made another small but powerful appearance in the pilot of NYPD Blue in 1990. To prepare, she spent time with real police officers, listening to their stories about fear, violence, and trauma. When the cameras rolled, she carried those stories in her voice. That experience eventually pushed her towards supporting victims' rights later in life. In 1991, she directed and performed in a workshop of the Vagina Monologues. Some theater officials tried to stop the production, calling it too explicit. Kyra refused to back down. The workshop became a feminist milestone and strengthened her voice as both an artist and an advocate. Her Hollywood breakthrough arrived with Born on the 4th of July in 1989, where she played Donna, Tom Cruise's character's girlfriend. She wore a prosthetic leg for days to understand her role better, committing fully to the emotional demands of the part. Her dedication caught the attention of the cast and crew, and the long, pressure-filled days on set helped establish her reputation as a serious actor. In Mr. and Mrs. Bridge, 1990, she worked with legends Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. During one scene, Newman wanted the scene blocked a certain way, but Kyra disagreed. Their argument stopped filming for nearly an hour. The director later admitted the fight actually improved the scene. Moments like that showed that she wasn't afraid to protect her character's truth, even if it meant pushing back against icons. In Kansas, 1991, she took on the role of a punk rocker. She learned basic guitar in 2 weeks, bought her own wardrobe, and dyed her hair for the entire shoot. The movie became a cult favorite, and critics loved her energy. That same year, she reunited with Kevin Bacon for the film Pirates, an edgy romantic comedy filled with bold scenes that sparked conversations about what mainstream films were willing to show. Their marriage was still new, and the on-screen intimacy made interviews awkward. Still, Kyra threw herself into the role with courage, earning attention for her boldness. In 1992, she appeared in Singles, and something clicked the moment the camera focused on her. She played Linda Powell with a nervous charm that felt authentic. One line she improvised, "Everyone has an act, and not having an act as your act," became iconic. The film captured the spirit of early 90s Seattle, grunge, clubs, Pearl Jam cameos, and Kyra stood out in the middle of it all. Director Cameron Crowe encouraged her to keep improvising, trusting her instincts. The film earned more than $18 million and eventually became a cultural snapshot of its era. That same year, she starred in Miss Rose White and delivered one of the most powerful performances of her career. She learned Yiddish for the role and embraced the emotional weight of playing a woman who discovers her sister survived the Holocaust. The long, draining days on set paid off when she won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress. Critics praised her honesty and vulnerability, and the role dramatically changed the way people saw her. By 1995, she was starring in Something to Talk About, playing Emma Ray King. This role pushed her physically as much as emotionally. She rode real horses, took real falls, and even cracked her ribs during one stunt. The pain she felt slipped naturally into her performance, giving it a raw and grounded edge. The movie was released in August 1995 and earned her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress. People admired the way she held her own beside major stars while quietly dealing with bruises and physical pain that the audience never saw. In 1996, she appeared in Phenomenon and played Lace with a softer, warmer touch. John Travolta played a man transformed by something supernatural, and Kyra's calm presence balanced the film. One of their strongest scenes was an unscripted piano duet that Kyra encouraged everyone to improvise. They filmed it during a quiet night in rural Colorado, and the stillness around them made the moment feel fragile and incredibly real. The movie blended romance and mystery in a way audiences loved, and her choice to keep every emotion honest helped lift the entire story. The following year, she made a sharp turn and played Felicia Potter in Critical Care, 1997. It was a cold, emotionally unsettling role. She spent time in real intensive care units, watching families face life-or-death choices. Those experiences shaped her performance, especially the scenes where she fought for the last moments of her father's care. The cast included strong names like James Spader and Helen Mirren, but Kyra's ability to move between manipulation, fear, and heartbreak made her unforgettable. When the movie came out in November 1997, it sparked nationwide discussions about medical ethics that lasted long after the credits rolled. Then 2005 arrived, and everything in her career changed again. She stepped into the closer and created one of the most memorable characters on television. Even before filming began, she sat alone in front of a camera and recorded herself trying more than 50 different Southern accents. She wanted Brenda Lee Johnson to sound like a real woman from Georgia, not an actor putting on a voice. When the creators saw her tapes, they couldn't believe how far she pushed herself. That commitment shaped the entire tone of the show. The pilot aired on June 13, 2005, introducing viewers to a detective who was sharp, emotional, charming, stubborn, and unpredictable all at once. As The Closer grew more successful, her influence behind the scenes grew too. By the fourth season, she was earning about $300,000 per episode. But in 2008, she clashed with the studio over Brenda's eating disorder storyline. Kyra wanted it to stay raw and honest. The studio wanted to soften it. She refused to give in, even though she knew it could cost her the job. Her push won, and the storyline stayed. That moment became a milestone in her career and proved how deeply she believed in telling the truth through her characters. To make Brenda's interrogations feel real, Kyra trained with LAPD detectives in 2006. She rode with them, watched how they handled gang conflicts, and observed the psychological tactics they used during questioning. She later said she learned that deception wasn't always cruelty, sometimes it was a tool. She carried that understanding into Brenda's sharp, unpredictable interview scenes. Many moments on the show were inspired directly by what she saw in real interrogation rooms. Her dedication helped the series earn respect not just from fans but from real law enforcement professionals. Then another shift happened. From 2013 to 2021, she joined Brooklyn Nine-Nine as Chief Madeline Wunsch. She usually filmed her scenes in quick one-day blocks because she was busy directing other projects, but she still managed to deliver smart, cold, wickedly funny performances. Her rivalry with Captain Holt became one of the funniest and most beloved parts of the series, and she even earned an Emmy nomination for the role. In 2021, she took on Call Your Mother, a show that felt personal to her because she drew inspiration from her real life as a mother to Travis and Sosie. Jean Rains was a mom trying to reconnect with her adult children, and Kyra helped shape the character from the inside out. Even though the show was canceled after one season, she talked openly about how much it meant to her. Many fans wished it had continued, but they also said her honest portrayal of family struggles stayed with them long after the show ended. Her career continued rising. In 2010, she finally won the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress after receiving 6 consecutive nominations from 2006 to 2011. Most people expected Juliana Margulies from The Good Wife to win that year, because she had won most of the awards leading up to the Emmys. The category was filled with giants: Glenn Close, Connie Britton, January Jones, Mariska Hargitay. But Kyra's performance in the episode Maternal Instincts earned her a surprise victory. The entire room was stunned, and the moment officially cemented her as a Hollywood powerhouse. She had also won a Golden Globe in 2007, and she spoke openly about how she needed therapy to protect her voice because Brenda's southern accent took such a physical toll. Her honesty made the award feel even more meaningful. From 2006 to 2012, she earned 7 SAG nominations for The Closer. In 2011, she lost to Juliana Margulies again, but afterward she spoke publicly about pay inequality. She pointed out that even actresses with proven success were often paid less than men doing similar work. Her words became part of a larger industry conversation and helped strengthen her reputation as someone willing to fight for fairness. Kyra Sedgwick was only 21 in 1987 when she walked onto the set of Lemon Sky and met Kevin Bacon. He wasn't just a co-star. Almost immediately, he became the person she stayed up late with, the person she talked to for hours, the one she shared quiet dinners with, the one she woke up thinking about. Kevin even tried to arrange a date by asking her masseuse what time she usually came in. At the time, Kyra thought the move was a little strange, but later she laughed about it and said it was exactly the kind of nervous charm Kevin had back then. From the outside, their romance looked simple: 2 actors meet, fall in love, and start building a life together. But inside Kyra's family, things were complicated. Her mother was Jewish. Kevin was Catholic. Her mother strongly disapproved of the relationship, and her disapproval nearly pushed them apart. Kyra admitted later that the pressure came close to ending the relationship before it even started. But despite the noise, the two of them stayed together. By Christmas Eve 1987, they weren't breaking up, they were getting engaged. They married on September 4, 1988, at a quiet southern plantation. Everything about the wedding was simple. Kevin wore a light gray plaid suit. Kyra wore a lace gown. There were no huge crowds, no Hollywood spectacle, just 2 people who believed they had a lifetime to figure things out. But early in their marriage, Kyra made a decision that changed everything. Soon after the wedding, she stopped using birth control. It wasn't an accident. She later said she wanted a baby right away. Hollywood might have thought they were rushing, but she didn't care. She became pregnant quickly, and less than a year after the wedding, on June 23, 1989, their son Travis was born. One moment, they were newlyweds. The next, they were young parents with a baby, careers, and the public watching every move. Their daughter arrived soon after. On March 15, 1992, Kyra gave birth to Sosie. Around the same time, her film career was taking off. She was doing press tours for singles, and there was no break for motherhood. She carried her baby to interviews, breastfed between appearances, and pushed through exhausting days with barely any rest. Later, she spoke openly about how overwhelming it was to balance newborns with movie promotions, expectations, and the constant pressure to stay composed in public. Her openness about the struggles she faced as both an actor and a mother pushed her to fight for better support for women on film sets. She spoke again and again about how difficult it was to balance long working hours with raising children, and she used her own experiences to push for real change. She argued for flexible schedules so mothers would not have to choose between their job and their family. She also pushed for proper lactation rooms so women did not have to hide in uncomfortable corners or storage closets. Slowly, people began to notice how serious and consistent she was. Other women in the industry saw her not only as a talented actor but as someone who understood the heavy pressure of balancing public work with private responsibilities. Her honesty made them feel seen and gave them a voice. As her family grew, so did the emotional risks she took in her work. In 2004, she and Kevin took on one of the darkest and most emotionally draining films of their careers, The Woodsman. Kevin played a man who had been convicted of abusing children and was trying to rebuild his life. She played his wife, a woman trapped between love, fear, and mistrust. The subject matter was intense and deeply disturbing. It weighed on them every day and followed them home even when filming ended. It took over their minds in a way neither of them expected. The two of them eventually went to couples therapy because the emotional burden was too heavy to carry alone. They also spent time at a quiet farm retreat in Connecticut, far away from buzzing cameras and bright lights, trying to reconnect and wash away the emotional darkness the film had left inside them. Instead of damaging their marriage, the experience brought them closer. They learned how to communicate more clearly, how to support each other when their work entered painful emotional territory, and how to stay connected even when a project tried to pull them apart. Therapy did not stay a one-time solution. It became a tool they relied on to keep their marriage healthy as their careers continued to challenge them. Years later in 2012, she faced a different kind of emotional fear when she starred in the horror film The Possession. She played a mother desperately trying to save her daughter from a duck, a spirit from Jewish folklore. Preparing for the role was not simple. She did not just read the script. She studied religious texts, spoke with experts, and learned about Hasidic exorcism rituals. She wanted the role to feel real and grounded in authentic tradition. The final exorcism scene in the movie, led by a Hasidic rabbi, was shaped directly by the real rituals she had researched. But the deeper she went into the story, the heavier it became for her emotionally. She began having vivid nightmares. The role affected her so much that the production paused for a full week so she could recover. Some of her Jewish relatives were upset about how dark and graphic the story felt, and she had to face the emotional weight of carrying a character who was drowning in fear. The experience changed how she thought about horror, about spirituality, and about the emotional price she was willing to pay for certain types of roles. While she pushed herself as an actor, she also began building something behind the camera. When The Closer ended in 2012, she did not relax or slow down. Instead, she launched her production company, Big Swing Pictures, which focused on stories led by women. One of their first major projects was Reach Me in 2014, a small independent film with spiritual themes that surprisingly managed to gather around 50 celebrity cameos. Sylvester Stallone appeared, along with Tom Arnold, Tom Sizemore, and many others. She even brought in real-life spiritual figures. The movie told the story of an anonymous self-help book that quietly changed the lives of many people, connecting them in unexpected ways. She used a large portion of the money she had earned from The Closer to help finance the film herself. Distributors were stunned by the long list of cameos and by the unusual structure of the story. When Reach Me premiered at the 2014 Los Angeles Film Festival, reviews were mixed, but it slowly gathered a passionate audience that appreciated its message about change and second chances. For her, the project proved she could build something from the ground up, attract major names, and share a message she believed in without needing a huge studio behind her. By 2016, she had expanded her work even further. She lent her voice to the character of a grieving mother in the film The Age of 17. At first, the role seemed simple because it was just voice acting, but it turned out to be emotionally heavy. She had to sound like a woman carrying deep sorrow, a mother trying to connect with her teenage daughter while still trying to heal from the death of her husband. The role demanded vulnerability and subtle emotion, and audiences felt the honesty in her performance. It showed that even with just her voice, she could make a character feel painfully real. Then came 2017, when she stepped into the director's chair for the first time for a feature-length project. She directed the Lifetime movie story of a girl, based on the novel by Sarah Zare. She refused to play it safe. She cast Kevin as Michael, a pizza shop owner who spent half the film shirtless and who was also written as a gay dad, an addition she made based on themes she had explored in her USC directing thesis about non-traditional families. The film was not easy to get made. HBO passed on it, and she believed in it so strongly that she used her own money to help finance the production. Story of a Girl aired on July 23, 2017. The story followed Deanna, a teenage girl whose life was torn apart by a sex video that spread through her community and never seemed to disappear. The film explored shame, family pain, and the possibility of forgiveness. She used her years of acting experience to guide Ryan Shane, who played Deanna, through the most vulnerable moments. Kevin's role as a gay dad sparked public debate, with some people arguing about how roles like that should be cast. She defended her choices, explaining that her vision of family did not always fit traditional molds. For her, the story was not about scandal but about how families survive judgment and heal. She continued to grow as a filmmaker. In 2019, she guest-directed an episode of Grace and Frankie titled The Aid. On the surface, it was a light comedy about two older women. But underneath, the episode explored something rarely seen on television: genuine intimacy between senior characters. She pushed for the scenes to feel honest and unfiltered, not polished or sanitized. Marta Kaufman, the show's co-creator, admitted she was surprised by how boldly she approached the topic. She drew on her own parents' experiences with late-life love and insisted that mature romance should be shown with the same honesty and dignity as any other age group. At the same time, she was preparing for a much bigger ambition. In 2022, she made her feature film directing debut with Space Oddity, a drama about family guilt and environmental anxiety. The film earned her a Directors Guild nomination and proved she could handle stories that were both intimate and connected to global issues. She continued to direct TV episodes and produce films, including a horror project with Kevin and their daughter, Sosie. Their partnership shifted from just acting together to co-producing and co-directing, blending their creative lives with their family life. That same year, she stepped into the Marvel Universe through the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. She voiced herself on the phone in a small role, but what mattered most to her was the family inclusion clause she negotiated, making sure Travis and Sosie were involved behind the scenes. The special premiered on November 25, 2022, and audiences loved its mix of humor and heart. For her, it was proof she could join a huge franchise without leaving her family behind. In 2023, she joined The Summer I Turned Pretty as Aunt Julia in Season 2. Filming during 2022 was heavily shaped by strict COVID rules. Daily testing, distancing, and limited crews changed the atmosphere of every set. At one point, she had to direct important beach scenes remotely from home. She worked through video calls, guiding the crew and even directing Sosie, who appeared in the show. Together, they kept the scenes emotional and connected, even through screens. Her ability to direct from afar impressed the team and showed how creative work could continue even when the world had shut down. In 2024, she moved into even more personal and experimental work. She directed short films that played at Sundance, exploring guilt passed down through generations and complex questions of identity. She drew heavily from her own family history, including the Sedgwick connection to the art world and Andy Warhol's Factory. These shorts surprised audiences by tying private family stories to broader social pressures. It marked another step in her evolution from actor to filmmaker who used her own life as artistic material. That same year, she took a strong public stance that sparked widespread discussion in Hollywood. She spoke against what she called Jew-face, the casting of non-Jewish actors in explicitly Jewish roles. She argued that Jewish stories should center Jewish performers. At the same time, she defended Kevin's long history of playing characters with backgrounds different from his own, saying her point was not about his career but about supporting authentic representation in Jewish stories. Her next project brought her advocacy and her family life together. She and Kevin began developing a horror comedy called Family Movie, co-directed with their children. The story followed a family of filmmakers who suddenly find themselves inside a real horror situation. The project played with identity, fear, creativity, and the strange bonds that form when a family creates art together. All of this built toward a powerful return to acting beside Kevin. In 2025, they starred together in The Best You Can, their first film as joint leads in almost 20 years. The movie was a romantic comedy set in New York. She played Cynthia Rand, a urologist. Kevin played a security guard. Their characters connected through late-night texts and shared worries about aging. The film premiered at the Tribeca Festival on June 7, 2025. The breakup scenes were the most emotionally intense. She later admitted that she cried real tears during filming because a voice in her mind whispered, "What if this was us?" Viewers even wondered if the movie hinted at real trouble in their marriage. She later explained that they were not falling apart, they were simply letting decades of love, fear, and pain flow into the scene with complete honesty. The film received a long-standing ovation and was praised for showing middle-aged romance with humor and truth. It was released digitally on November 25, 2025 by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, reminding audiences how strong their on-screen and off-screen connection still was. Through all of this, she never faded from Hollywood or quietly stepped aside. Her career has stretched over more than 40 years and more than 100 acting credits, from major TV roles to films to voice work. Now she also carries the titles of director, producer, advocate, and sometimes even remote boss when she cannot be on a set in person. She remains active on social media, continues working with Kevin, and consistently chooses projects that challenge her, scare her a little, and push her to grow.